Good afternoon, third graders. Today, we are going to talk about a little bit of background information about mountains to get us prepared for our weekly story. So, this picture right here is a picture of Mount Everest. And Mount Everest is located in the Himalayan mountain range on the border of Nepal and Tibet. And I thought this picture was so amazing as we look at the dirt covered part of the mountain all the way up to that snow capped mountain and how high of a peak it is. I thought that this was just really a truly amazing photo. So, as we continue, I want you to take a look at this picture here. And I want to ask you a question. Why do people take daring journeys? So, daring journeys might mean that you are an adventurous person. It could be a daring journey on a mountain, like we are going to talk about this week. It could be another sort of daring journey. But look at this climber here in this picture. He is on the mountain, and you can see in the back of the picture back here, there is another mountain that they're pointing to. So he is on one part of a mountain, and there's many other parts of mountains around him in this picture. He is also in his hand, he has an axe. This axe is a special tool that he is using to help him climb the mountain. So you can see here that it looks like there's a sharp point on there, and he's kind of sticking that axe into the mountain, and then he's going to pull himself up on the side of that mountain. He is also wearing a coat and boots to keep him warm in this very cold climate. But I want you to notice something about his boots. What is it that you notice about his boots that might be different than the boots that you wear outside at recess at Clover Ridge in the winter? You are right. He has little spikes or little cleats at the bottom of his boot. That is going to help him, much like this axe with this pointed handle. These cleats or spikes at the bottom of his boots are going to help him be able to kind of grab onto the ice and be able to climb up that mountain. And they won't be so slippery that he would just slide right down. They're able to kind of grab on and help him keep his balance. Being so high on the top of a mountain, the summit, which is the top of the mountain up there on Mount Everest, is extremely cold. In fact, the warmest day up at the top of that mountain is -2 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the warmest. Now, the coldest month on Mount Everest is January, similar to Minnesota, but the average daytime temperature on Mount Everest is about 33 degrees below zero. That's the average temperature. That sounds pretty cold. However, it can reach -75 degrees below zero. Wow. So, so cold. And we think some days in Minnesota are cold. That is extreme cold. So, this coat right here, if you were traveling up Mount Everest and it were to get into those extreme temperatures, you would need to have probably a couple of these coats on and many layers underneath. And for sure, having all parts of your skin covered. Anything that's exposed would really could get frostbite damage. Now, I want to also tell you a little bit about this picture. So, climbing a mountain is a really big challenge. And when you climb the mountain, there many challenges could come up. It's really hard work. It's dangerous to try and reach the top. That's why it's kind of this daring adventure. And a mountain climber needs two things. They need courage and they also need strength. So you really have to be in good physical condition to be able to climb a mountain. So I'm wondering if you have any ideas. What do you think the biggest threat is for mountain climbers? Hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. They could fall off the mountain. The mountains, the side of the mountain is very slippery and it's really steep. So it's really hard to get up the side of the mountain and they could fall. That is definitely a threat. The extreme temperature, like we talked about, is definitely a threat. Much, much colder than being down on like ground level. And those freezing cold temperatures could really hurt your skin. Also, the air gets really, really thin up at the top of the mountain, and it really gets hard for you to breathe. And so sometimes mountain climbers will wear oxygen packs and tanks to help with the really thin air so that they can still breathe. There are probably many of other challenges. Those are just a few that Mrs. Peterson could think of. And there are many dangers that await the climbers on Mount Everest. The high winds could really, you're up there and the high and the wind's blowing and you could be swinging back and forth. You could have bad weather. And then with altitude, as that altitude changes, you could start to feel a little bit sick. And if you're on the side of the mountain and you get sick, that can be kind of dangerous. The other things about mountains is that for some people, they have big goals as far as which mountain they want to climb, and they set these goals and work to try and reach them. So, what do you think climbing mountains would be like? Hmm. Do you think it would be a thrill? A synonym for thrill might be an adventure. Do you think it would be something fun and exciting to do? It's not something Mrs. Peterson would want to do for sure. But many people have a goal of climbing mountains and they might make a checklist and they might check off all of the different mountains after they've reached them or gotten to the top of them. And so they work really hard to complete their goal. Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world. And at its highest point, it is 29,029 feet. That's very, very, very high. Mountains are elevated landforms. So that means that you have the ground that we like walk on. And then if it's elevated, it means that it goes up. So a mountain is an elevated landform that's found all over the world. Some are really high, like Mount Everest, and snow capped. That means that there's snow at the top of them. Others are a little bit more rounded and they might have trees that cover the top of them. And still others might be a smoking volcano. The most common kind of mountains are called fold mountains, and they are an example of those kind of mountains is the Alps that you can find in Europe. And this is a picture of the Alps located in Europe. These were created a long time ago when two plates of the Earth's crust collided. And we talked a little bit about the Earth's plates, not like a dinner plate that you eat dinner, that you would eat food on, but it's those plates that are underneath the Earth that we talked about last week with volcanoes. And so two of those plates, they kind of collided and then they pushed up and they created a mountain. And those are called fold mountains. This week, you are going to be listening to a story called Mountains Surviving Mount Everest. And in this story, a 16-year-old boy climbs Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. And you are going to hear about some of his challenges, some of his great excitements, and things that happen to him while he is climbing this mountain. And your job this week, or today, I should say, your job for today is to listen to Mrs. Peterson's video. And then you also need to read to self for at least 20 minutes. And boys and girls, this is a read to self book that you maybe have been continuing, maybe all of distance learning. Maybe this is a new book that you've recently started. But this needs to be a book different than Raz Kids that you will read out of for around 20 minutes is what we're asking you to do. And then you should be watching Mrs. Peterson's video. Step 3 is to watch this National Geographic video called Getting to the Top. And it's super cool because it kind of makes you feel like you're on Mount Everest and what it's like to experience that. It's about 3 minutes long or so, and it's a pretty cool video. Next, you are going to go to Raz Kids and look for your weekly assignment from your teacher. You're going to listen to the story, read the story, and take a quiz for some of you. Others of you will read the story and take the quiz. Remember to complete all your steps so that your assignment is complete, and then you may record your score from your quiz on your Google Slides in your online notebook. You also have a few may do options this week as well. Your may do options are to watch this short little video on Mount Everest facts and history. That's option number one. Boys and girls, you really have to pay attention to that video because it gives you the facts and the history just across the screen with some fun music in the background. So you really have to be tuned in and be reading on the screen as you listen to that one. Option number two is to watch the second Mount Everest video, and there is some facts on that video for you. And at the end, there's a short quiz. So get a piece of paper and a pencil ready to go for you. Boys and girls, I hope that today you learned and you could explain to someone why mountain climbers need to be so well prepared as they go about their daring journey to climb a mountain. Enjoy the story this week and have a great day.